A very good evening, morning, and afternoon to all of you who have joined us today. I'm Rashika, and I'm glad to be hosting this today. Whenever you see something, you see a website, you see any interface, not just a website, how do you understand what information is important, what is not, what to consume, what not to consume, which will help me take the desired response and which will not help me do that, right? So, to help us master the visual hierarchy, we have Raza with us. Raza is an award winning design consultant, trainer, and mentor with over 13 years of work experience with startups and techs. He's currently running a global design agency called ThinSeed. In his last role, Raza worked as a creative lead at Afiniti, a $1 billion AI company. We all know about it. Raza is an expert in typography, design psychology, critique, problem solving, and layout and composition. A very warm welcome to you, Raza.
Thank you, Rashika. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm really excited about this. Let me share my screen and we'll get started right away.
Yeah. So as Rashika mentioned that we're going to talk about visual hierarchy. So this topic is extremely important for in terms of design. So anywhere you go, whether you design UIs or if you're a graphic designer or UX designer, this topic is something that you really need to think about before designing anything. So before I start on this, I would like to introduce myself a little bit and very quickly, so don't worry. This is me. My name is Raza, and like Rashika mentioned that I've been in the industry for around 13 plus years. I'm running an agency called ThinSeed, where we are working with small and medium enterprises to solve their brand identity and presentation design issues. And I've been also part of an agri-tech startup called People. One of my during my career, there were a lot of people who helped me, but some of them who I would really like to mention over here are these 5 people, and on top of it is Chris Doe. You might have heard about him, and I would really appreciate you guys if you go and learn from him as well. So he's a great inspiration for me, and throughout my career I've been learning a lot from him. And there are other people as well, like Sagi Habib and Bahar Samir, who have influenced my work. So these are some of the awards that I've won in the past, and these are some of the UI and some websites that I've done. This was an app. So I've been working as a multidisciplinary designer. So I've done a range of designs, and I really like to ideate and brainstorm. So these were for social media. This was a logo. These were some presentations. Yeah. So yeah. So coming back to the topic that we are really waiting for. So what exactly is visual hierarchy? So it's quite simply the importance of information, the visual information that we control through our visuals. So as a formal definition, you would say that hierarchy is the control of visual information to imply importance. In a real life scenario, you must have seen an organization where at the top there's a CEO, and under him there are a lot of C-suites like CMO, CTO, CHRO, CFO, CIO, and so on and so forth. So there are a number of people who works under them. So this is also a hierarchy in a real life scenario. But if you talk about hierarchy in design, so it basically it's a superpower that influences your audience's visuals. Like you get to control their eyes, um, even though you're not there. You get to control what they see first, what they see second, and third and fourth, and so on and so forth. So, for example, if you see this, you'll definitely everyone would read the bold text over here, and then this line, and then the last one. So this is how, even if I wouldn't have mentioned, everyone would have read in the same pattern. And there's a recipe to it. There are some ingredients to it, which we are going to cover very shortly. But I just wanted to get you guys excited about this by showing you some examples. So one of the examples before we get into the nitty gritty is this. So if you read this, you'll definitely first read one, then two, and then three. And once again, there are a number of things going on behind it that makes it possible. So before we move on to the ingredients, a little I want to talk about the advantages. So the first advantage is it adds structure to your design. So we need to remember that as a designer, we the sole purpose of our designs is to convey a message to our audience. So we need to understand our audience. So if there's no structure, it would be very difficult for the people to understand what you're talking about. As an example, I've taken this from Pinterest just to show you an example of the structure that it's creating over here. So if you look at it, you most probably would read in this pattern where you'll read the next 100, then your eye would go down uh, um, vertically, and then you'll read this one, the impact, and the logo, and the sequence would be more or less like this. And lastly, the smallest part. So this is the structure um, that was offered to us, and without I mean, if no one would have known about the structure or sequence, they would have read in a similar fashion. So this is how you can have this power to control your audience's visuals. By the way, uh, I would love to talk about some questions or answer some questions that you might have during the workshop, and you can write them down in the chat. And once I'm finished with one of the topics, I can get back and we can take your questions if that's okay. So moving along, the second advantage is visual organization. So if you see, once again, I've taken this from Behance. So if you look at this piece, um, the focal point of all of it is this shoe and this whole um, photo. So this is gonna grab your user's attention, and then uh, through this, you're gonna consume the rest of the content, like the bolded the bold heading, and then the logo, and finally the smallest part of the content. And lastly, it obviously helps viewers to navigate. All of these advantages are in some way or the other, they overlap. But I have broken them down just to make it easier for us to remember what we are talking about. So if you talk about a UI, um, you'll see that in a similar fashion, this image or these colors are going to grab our attention first, then this bold heading, then the CTA, the call to action, um, and then these stats and visuals, and lastly this sub bar and this paragraph text. So this is the kind of sequence um, that one might follow when looking at a design. And lastly, of course, there's a button at the top. So once you read all of the content, the designer would want you to click on the CTA, the get started button. So in order to establish a visual hierarchy, we need to understand or ask three questions. The first one is, what do we want the users to focus on? Right? So once again, our users are at the center of everything that we do. So it's very important to understand who your audience is. The number two is that we want the that we want to understand what they would do, um, and once they see our design or whatever UI or whatever piece of information that we are trying to convey, what the users would do after that. And the last question is, where do we want their eye to go, which we have been talking about from the start. So these are the three questions that you need to think about. And all of them are related to, once again, the target audience. So now the main thing, how can we break down this visual hierarchy recipe, and how can we create something of our own, whether we are creating a website or app or icon or logo or whatever. How can we create that impact? So the first ingredient. Oh, by the way, one thing I would like to mention is, if you go on and Google it, Google visual hierarchy, you might find more than 5 principles, right? But what I've done is I have simplified all of those into um, five different principles or ingredients, as I would like to call. So you can follow this, and I would share a list of other principles as well after this. So you can mix and match all of them. But I'm going to talk about these five because they have, in my opinion, they have the most impact on our visual hierarchy. So the first thing is size. So size is very important. If you look at this, you definitely understand the impact of size. So this, our eye is gonna move from left to right, because once again, the size is something uh, that takes our attention the most, and then it moves gradually towards the smaller ones. So in this case, it's going from the left to the right. The second ingredient, and by the way, we are going to talk about this in a practical scene. Um, uh, I'm gonna create something for you guys, um, but I'm just going through this list. So the second thing is weight. So once again, weight is, it could be in typography, uh, like I've shown over here, but uh, there are options to create visuals as well. Like you can create shapes, like one could be outlined, one could be filled. That could be an impact of weight as well. So through weight, you can create a visual hierarchy. So in this case, we're gonna read the text bold first, and then we're gonna see the light text. The third part is color, or what I've skipped in here is value. So color and value, I'm gonna do. I've covered um, collectively. So once again, our eyes are gonna move from left to right because the color, the where the contrast is the most, we're gonna see that part first, and then our eyes are gonna follow that pattern until it reaches the least contrasting element. In this case, from left to right. The fourth ingredient is position. So positioning your element is very important. Like you must have seen in my examples previously that the topmost element is something that uh, that is usually read first. Um, but there are usually there are some patterns that people follow when it comes to reading a language from left to right. There is this pattern called Z pattern, where if a person is reading a language from left to right, they read from left towards the right, then their eyes move along the diagonal, and then they read the right part. Their gaze would go to the right. So this is a general pattern that some people would follow. But once again, if your target audience is consuming or if you're creating a content that is if the language is written from right to left or from top to bottom, that would change the scenario. Of course, that's going to change your target audience, and your positioning would impact or affect based on that. So you need to once again, I'm going to emphasize it time and again that your target audience is key, and you need to understand them first before you create anything. And there's this F pattern as well, um, which goes from the top to bottom, and then we read horizontally in rows. And the last part is, I would say, um, it applies to um, typography, not to everything. But type case is like there are all caps, there are small letters, yeah, I mean, all small letters. There's title case where the first letter of every word is capitalized, and then there's sentence case where the first letter in the whole sentence is capital, and the rest of them are normal unless there's a proper noun. So these are the five ingredients that um, that are involved in creating a visual hierarchy. Um, so I've listed them down collectively so that you remember them. And we're going to use this in our example shortly. So you might want to remember them. And once again, like I've mentioned, there are um, other principles as well. You might find them on Google, which I've listed over here. Some of them. You might find others as well. So there's proximity. Um, like proximity is how close uh, certain elements are to each other. So the closer the elements, the our eyes would group them automatically. So this is related to something called Gestalt psychology, which deals with our visual perception, and it talks about how our eyes um, group things. So proximity is one of the principles of Gestalt psychology. And then we have negative space. Of course, if we have a lot of negative space around an element, it's gonna take our attention towards the element that is isolated. And then we have alignment and repetition. That works really simply. Like if you align things, um, uh, if you align two things in a similar way, that would be perceived as a group, and based on their size and weight and all of the other ingredients that I've talked about, our visual hierarchy would be impacted. So we need to understand that um, we can use these ingredients simultaneously and individually, but there are some overlaps as well. Like at one time, you can use size, weight, and color, and in other times, based on the requirement, you might take away the size of the typeface uh, or or text. You might take away its size, but you can give some weight and color to it just to balance the hierarchy. So we are gonna see that in the in the coming screens. So before I move on, one thing I would like to mention is you need to remember one thing, that if every element appears important, then nothing will seem important. Like whenever people start creating visual hierarchy, they would start by um, taking vibrant colors and putting it all over the place, and they would think that this is gonna uh, this is gonna increase or enhance the visual hierarchy. When this is exactly the opposite of what happens. So, for example, if you see this, you would see that there are a number of white circles, but there is no hierarchy to it. I mean, um, if I would say that, can you focus on any one circle, you wouldn't be able to do that, because everything is in a strong contrast, right? So you need to focus on or emphasize on only the elements that you need to that you want the user to focus on. So in this case, if I take away the value, value is by the way, value is the um, brightness or lightness of an object, right? So it doesn't involve color. Like I said, that I have what I did was I merged the color and value part together, but value is very important over here in creating visual hierarchy. So what I've done is um, uh, I've took away some of the value out of the circles, and the only circle that is in contrast will be the one that you will be able to focus on, right? So um, we can so next we're gonna implement all of these in a practical way. But first, I would like to ask you people, if you have any questions up until now. I would love to answer. Oh no,
There
yeah,
is one in the Q&A session section.
yeah, yeah,
Does the
yeah.
weight
Yes,
apply only to type?
yeah. No, not exactly. Like I've mentioned, weight is not restricted to just type. It could be applied on elements. For example, if I show you here, by the way, this is Illustrator, but it doesn't matter what software you're using, because visual hierarchy could be created on a piece of paper and in a presentation through PowerPoint, Keynote, Google Slides, or whatever software you're using. It doesn't matter. It's all about the concept, uh, not the software. Software is just a tool to help you um, speed up your work. So if I have, for example, this square, yellow square, and I have another square over here, but instead of fill, I take away its fill and convert it to an outline. You can see the impact of this. That, like, the visual hierarchy has already been created over here. Like your eye will definitely see the filled box first, and then the outline box. So this is how you can control the visual hierarchy apart from typography. Um, and don't worry about it. I'm gonna show you some examples. Um, but um, I hope this answers the question. And I would love to hear some more questions if anyone has one. Okay, great. So moving on. So if we look at some examples, the first example I'm going to talk about is a predator and prey example. If you look at this visual, you'll see that the lion and deer are in this frame, but there's no interest or there's no um, storytelling in the whole visual, and there's no hierarchy to it. Um, so what we can do is play with the with the ingredients that we talked about, and then we can create something out of it. And this example is related to some shapes or visuals, but this could be implemented in posters and your graphic design projects or your UI as well. And next, I'm going to talk about some typographic example as well. But first, let me talk about this. So um, the first ingredient that we talked about was size, right? So if we start playing with the size, let me show you what happens. So just by adding a little bit of size contrast, what we have done is added some story to all of this, right? So now we are looking from the perspective of the lion, and it's creating that dramatic scene, and we can obviously play with it and make it huge. And by the way, what I've experienced is if you're short of ideas, uh, sometimes it happens to. Um, it's a different topic, but very quickly, if I talk about um, the ideas, um, there are times when we hit a creative block, and whenever I hit that block, what I do is instead of um, roaming around and taking a break and all of that, that doesn't work for me. um, what I do is I try breaking the rules. Like I do some extreme um, changes to my layout, and that opens a uh, lot of ways for me to think outside of the box. And when that doesn't happen, I mean that if that doesn't work, what I do is I um, I take away all of the content, all of the elements, and just focus on the one element that I'm interested in solving. Like if I have a whole UI header, I mean, if I'm designing a header of a website, and there are multiple elements like the header and the images and text and CTA. What I would do is I would just focus on um, on the menu or the typeface or the type the CTA or any combination of that. That really works for me. This is something called atomic design, which is taken from the UI, but it could be applied to when you're stuck. So coming back to our layout, so just by adding the size, we can see the contrast that is being created. The second thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna um, I'm gonna take away the value of the deer, so that it feels like it's far away in the woods. Just like that. And we can create some more elements like, and don't think that this all of this is just uh, limited to what I'm showing over here. All it can all be replicated uh, in any form of design that you're doing. We can maybe um, yeah. So you can see that from here, where there is no hierarchy, there is no storytelling, to here, where we have just used a couple of ingredients like what the size and value, and we have magically created this dramatic story. You showed what you said about the visual hierarchy, where there was person because visual hierarchy varies from person to person. Yeah. Okay. Um, this question is from Venkatesh, and he's asking that one image he's referring to the shoe image that I showed earlier. Yeah, this one. So it happened. Person. So what he's asking is, does visual hierarchy varies from person to person? Um, yes, it can vary because there are certain aspects that involves when a person is viewing your content. Um, for example, a person if a person is sitting at their home and consuming your content, that would be a different scenario. And for example, that same person or some other person is viewing your content while they're going to the office and they're viewing it on your mobile on their mobile. That's going to have a different impact or visual hierarchy for them. So like I said earlier, you need to understand where your target audience um, are gonna be. You need to create that persona. Um, that's why we create personas, because through that we get to know their day-to-day activities, and we get to know how they're going to consume our content or design. So based on that, you're gonna see that if someone is um, moving along, the person is driving and they're consuming your content, you're gonna take away all of the unnecessary smaller pieces, and you're gonna just focus on your product or whatever message that you're trying to convey in a very bold way, so that it's easier to grasp the gist of it in just a matter of seconds. So yeah, depending on the person's context, on your target audience, it does differ. Um, I hope that answers the question. If not, let me know. Um, then we have uh, this how can you create visual hierarchy through patterns? patterns, actually that is something that is not covered over here. That's what I was talking about. That I'm gonna focus on these 5 ingredients. Um, but there are other ingredients like uh, through repetition, we can create visual hierarchy. Like um, we can create a um, trail of people or trail of a line that could lead to some element. So through that we can control the visual of what your users are viewing. So through repetition or through patterns, you can control it. But unfortunately, I don't have an example over here right now. But I hope that answers your question. Like, um, if I would have an example, I would have covered that. Unfortunately, I don't. But if that doesn't help, I can clarify if you want. Let me know.
Cool. I think you can let Raza know everyone in the chat section so that he also gets a heads up that the answers are correct, right? In the meanwhile,
Yeah.
I think Raza, we can go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So moving along with the same example, I would like to show. I would like to show a similar example, but with a different perspective. Like this is basically contrast that we are talking about. Um, but now what we are doing is we are trying to show the same thing from the deer's perspective. So you can see that you can create a number of layouts through this kind of here and there. So yeah, these are a couple of examples that I wanted to show. So what we're using is value and size. The next example that I wanted to show was relating to typography because we get a lot of this in our day-to-day churn work. And if we know how to create a proper visual hierarchy, then we'll be able to understand how to manage these kind of things. So once again, um, text or typography is a little bit different from the elements uh, that you've seen earlier. Over here, what is important that you need to know how to create a layout or how to solve a layout, which leads to our next topic, which is how to solve a layout, right? So I'm going to come back to this example and I'm going to solve this with you guys in front of you. So we have a better understanding of what we're dealing with, and we're going to use all of the ingredients that I've discussed earlier. And at the same time, we're gonna see how we can solve any kind of layout. So these are the 4 steps that in my opinion, that works. So the first and foremost, once again, is not just to add colors and jump right into it. You don't do that. You need to understand the content, right? Once you understand the content, uh, Because why is it important to understand the content is because if we are trying to convey a message, you need to understand the message yourself. You need to understand your audience and the message and the tone of that message. You need to control that. You need to convey that in the same manner. Otherwise, if you're trying to convey a serious message and you're using Comic Sans, that's gonna have a lot of different results throughout your campaign or whatever you're creating. So you need to first understand the content, every single word, and of course the target audience. Then you need to break down everything, break down the content to logical chunks. I mean, in what I mean is you need to group and break down the heading from the paragraphs from the CTA. You need to break that down so that you have a visual sense of what goes with what, right? And we're gonna apply this over here. Then we have to align and add visual hierarchy to the layout. So if I start with this, you can see that at the top we have this text that says "We build careers," and immediately you must have realized that this is a kind of an HR message, or a company's message who are talking about a job opportunity, right? So "We build careers" is the heading, and what we are trying to do is understand the content, right? The first part of solving the layout. The second part is this. Don't try to understand this. This is just gibberish text. So don't waste your time on this. Uh, I've used this just to add a paragraph, right? So whatever you want to say, it's gonna be here, right? And then we have this CTA call to action, where we want the user to click on once they consume all of our content, right? So once we understand the content, the next thing that we're going to do is break it down. So how we break it down is like, I'm going to remove everything from here. And once again, I'm not going to focus on the tool. That's nothing to worry about at this point. I'm just talking about the concept, which could be applied to any kind of software, even if you're using Microsoft Word. Right. So what I've done is I know that this heading and this text, they usually go together, and then we have this CTA that should be a little bit further away from the content so that it's um, a little bit prominent. Like we saw over here that negative space enhances the visual hierarchy and proximity as well. So over here, we are using proximity. We are closing the two things that are related, and our minds are gonna um, uh, group them together, and then we're gonna see this. So visually, we have broken down this part. So then what we're going to do is align everything. So this is a simple part for the time being. We're going to try a lot of other alignments as well. Don't worry about it. This is the simplest one. And that's one of the things in creating layouts. You need to create hundreds of options if you want to come out of that, come out of those obvious options that one could get, right? So if I um, replicate, duplicate the artboard. I can now work on the visual hierarchy. So everything is set. I now understand the content. I've broken it down into logical chunks, and everything is aligned. The last thing that needs to be added is visual hierarchy, uh, which is what we are actually interested in. So you guys must have remembered, like, these are the these are the 5 attributes: size, weight, color, position, typecase, right? So we are going to do exactly that. So first, we're going to add a little bit of weight to this heading, right? And immediately you would see that this enhances the visual hierarchy of the whole piece, right? Now you can immediately read, we build careers first and then the rest of it, right? At this point, the paragraph text and the CTA has the same importance. They don't have any hierarchy at this point. The only thing uh, that is good over here is the space that we have added over here, right? And we're going to play with it again. Next, what we are going to do is take away the size from this paragraph, right? So we're going to take this over here and align it differently as well, right? And one thing that I've learned through my experience is that everything needs to align with something, right? If you are aligning, if you're aligning, if you're not aligning your content or your elements with anything, that's not going to work eventually. So you need to be wary of it. So at this point, I'm aligning it with with this, right? And the reason why I'm not aligning it with the full stop is because these things are called hanging punctuations, like comma, semicolon, inverted commas, full stop, all of them, and a lot of other things like question mark. All of them are called hanging punctuations. So they don't have that visual weight. Uh, they don't have enough visual weight for our eyes to focus on them. So uh, what we do is we usually align our eyes automatically try to align things um, from the letters or the objects that have a little bit of visual weight. Like in this case, um, S has a lot of weight than this full stop. So we ignore the hanging punctuations and we align everything from here, from the S. Okay. And one other aspect that I wanted to point out is you never align a curved object like this. Like you don't do this because optically, there's a this is a separate topic, optical illusion or optical alignment. But I'm just gonna skim that over here because we are doing alignment. So whenever we have curves or pointed shapes, what we do is we align things a little bit. We overflow the alignment. I mean, um, we don't align it with their edges. We align them with a little bit of the parts that have some weight. Otherwise, uh, there would be an optical illusion, and our eyes would tell us that uh, mathematically, although it would be aligned, mathematically it would be aligned to to everything like this, but our eyes would perceive it not to be aligned. So what we need to do is align it with a little bit of um, with the parts that have some weight, like this. All right. So coming back to the visual hierarchy part. So what I've done is uh, I've added some weight and weight to it, and taken away some weight from this paragraph just to create some hierarchy. Um, Now I'm adding this, and once again I haven't done this, so I'm doing it live. So just bear with me. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna replicate this artboard, and I'm gonna add some more weight to it. I mean size to it, like 50, and we can do half of or 3 times of 50, or you can do maybe less than that. Right? You can align everything from here. Okay? And and now this is a bit of an adjustment that I'm doing. I'm reducing the line height. I mean the distance between the lines leading, reducing that. And once again, I'll try to align it with something. So yeah, if you want to align anything, you need to find the flat letters that have a flat base, and then you can align them with your content. Right. So once you've done that, and there is a reason why I'm replicating the artboards, because I want to at the end I want to show you where we end up and where we started from. So then what we are going to do is we're going to take away the uh, size of this get started button, not that much, but like this, and we're going to give it a little bit of weight, right? And I forgot to mention that we have already given this heading the position. So we have already seen that um, there's a pattern that people follow when reading a language from left to right, that they read from left to right and then diagonal and then to right, the Z pattern. So we can utilize that, um, and we have put our heading at the top left corner so that it has um, it has more visual weight, or it is at the top of the visual hierarchy. So at this point we have size. This heading has size, weight, and position. Um, yeah, but it doesn't have any color at this point, right? But still, you can see that already we have created that visual hierarchy that we wanted to create. So there, whenever you create a layout, there needs to be a focal point. A focal point is something um, that engages your audience and ask them to engage with the rest of the content, right? It's the catalyst for the rest of the content. So over here, this heading, its size, its weight, and all of it, it's grabbing the attention of the user, and uh, then the user can read the rest of the content if it trusts them, right? Then we can move a little bit further. Like we can add some more color to it. In fact, I can choose a color from here. And of course, color selection would be based on your message and your target audience. But at this point, I'm just adding it um, just to uh, just to prove the point that the visual hierarchy is there. Otherwise, we the best practice is to understand your audience and your brand, and if that brand has some personality, and based on that, you choose your colors. So once again, I'm trying to create that contrast. So um, we have this contrast, size contrast, color contrast, and all of that. Um, Now that I see this paragraph, I think that it needs a little bit of weight because it's literally um, difficult to understand, and we can maybe give it a little bit of contrast. Um, what we can do is capitalize everything. Right? So this was one of the ingredients that we had, the type case. So in this case, I've capitalized everything. By the way, if you guys, if you have any questions um, while I'm doing this, I would love to answer.
There is one though, from
Yeah.
Shelly again. So what if the content is, too text heavy?
Oh, yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah, that's a very good question. Very good question. Very practical question. um, I'll show you what happens in that scenario. Let me complete this, and I'll show you an example that I did for one of my clients. But that's really a real case scenario. Good question. So yeah, over here we have size, weight, color, position, but we haven't given it an all caps. Um, so depending on your message, you can add that as well. But uh, giving a heading all of the 5 ingredients is it needs to have a specific reason. I mean, you don't do it with everything that you do. Like I said, that if you try to overdo it, it's gonna work in the reverse order. I mean, it's gonna hurt your design. You need to give it a balance, but just to see how it would look, let me capitalize it as well, and we'll adjust the alignment and all of the layout accordingly.
I think there's one more, a small question, that what type scale do you suggest for mobile app design?
Um, that's that that would depend on the platform that you're using. I mean, sometimes um, uh, for an iPhone or Android, there are different sizes based on their screen sizes. So it's difficult to give a single answer to this, but what I would say is try to download a UI kit, and that would give you a starting point to what sizes, what minimum size you can use. And there's no limit to the maximum size. So you can increase the size however you want, depending on your message and audience. But the main part is that you don't go lower than a certain type size. That's more important. So it's difficult to answer this in a single response, but I hope that helps.
Yeah, but I think he understood. Just
Okay,
responded.
great, great. So just like that, let me go to the top, and I'll change the sequence of the artboard so that we have everything in sequence. Let me put it on draft artboard. Yeah. So we started. Sorry, we didn't start from here. We started from here, right? This is the 6th artboard. So I'm going to put it on the 11th. Okay. So we started from here where there was no hierarchy. Everything was very monotonous. And then we started adding some, we understood the content. We added some um, visual break. And then we started working on the visual hierarchy. So we added some weight, size, and then we took away some size from the paragraph. Um, we took away the size from the CTA, and then we started adding some colors. And once again, we need to be wary of the alignment so that everything looks cohesive. And then if we apply all of the ingredients to a certain heading, this would look like this. Okay. So I hope this was helpful, because this is something that a lot of people struggle with, which is typography. And what I've understood throughout my career is that the reason why we get overwhelmed is that we start focusing on the bigger picture when we are solving a layout. Instead of focusing on the all of the elements, we need to focus on uh, we need to have that atomic design thinking involved, right? Otherwise, it would be very difficult for you to. Uh, our mind works best when it has less decisions to make, right? So if you think about one piece at a time, you would have a better chance to focus on and solve that particular layout. I hope that makes sense. So I have a follow-up question. Can you give us a tip on how to use the justified text without the words being separated? Uh, there's no, uh, there are some hacks. There are some hacks. But once again, this is related to typography, and typography is a whole new world. So let me try. Let me try to address that a little quickly, because I guess we are running out of time. Um, but anyway, there are some options. Um, uh, if you look at the paragraphs panel, uh, you have left, center, right, and then you have four types of justification. The only difference is the last line. Like you can see with the through the visual as well, that everything is going to be aligned, except for the last line, right? It's going to be on the left, and then this option is when the last line is going to be aligned from the center, and this one is going to be right, and this is the actual justified text. So what your question was, um, how can we solve this problem? So first, I would say that you would be better off using, if you really want to use justification. Justification is not ideal for all cases, but if you really want to use it, you should start with this one, right? Where all of the lines are justified, but the last line is left aligned, right? And then when you have these rivers of space, these are called rivers of space. These ones, this one, this one, this one, this one. These are called rivers of space because they flow. These gaps flow like I mean, they create these spaces where you can see the something is flowing through them. Their spaces. Uh, so one thing that you can do is you can increase the what do we call this? You can increase the tracking, right? This is tracking. I'm not talking about kerning. I'm talking about tracking. And the difference is kerning is between two letters, and tracking is when you're talking about the whole paragraph or a bunch of words, right? So if you increase a little bit of tracking, it it may solve your problem, because I have run into similar situations when I was working on a book on InDesign, and I had these large amounts of text, and I was having the same issue. So this is one of the ways you can cater track this. So it's not necessary to apply the same tracking to every paragraph. You can apply, or you can adjust this to certain paragraphs. You can apply this to certain paragraphs, whichever is um, uh, showing some issues with the spaces. There are other ways as well, but I'm afraid that I won't be able to cover that. But this is the most common and easy way through which you can solve this. So I hope that that helps.
I think it did. It definitely did.
Yeah. Okay. So lastly, and I remember this question. So don't worry, I'm going to come back very quickly. So lastly, so we have understood how we can solve a layout and how we can finally add visual hierarchy. You won't believe it. After understanding uh, this alignment and all of this visual hierarchy, uh, this is the part. This was the point uh, where I designed a website, after which I won a lot of awards. So my company, our whole team won those awards, but I was the sole designer. So I designed the whole website through this alignment and visual hierarchy thing. So it sometimes it feels like these are very unnecessary things, but to be honest, these are the, if you try, if you can solve the atomic parts of a layout, you can eventually solve the whole header and the whatever section that you come up with. So you need to think about that. So very quickly, some real life examples, and then the Q&A, which we're already done with, I guess. And very quickly, once again, look at this. This is the type. I mean, this is the size contrast that I've added, and it's creating that visual hierarchy. Again, visual hierarchy. This image is the focal point, and then it's allowing me or attracting me towards this content. And there needs to be some breathing space so that people don't get all of the busy part. They need to have some space to digest the content. Once again, this is another part that I solved separately. These are the stats. So once again, visual hierarchy. Once again, I've applied these boxes, colored boxes, so it's adding visual hierarchy as well. And that question, which was earlier about how can we create visual hierarchy um, through shapes. So this is their answer. Like if you focus, try to read this, you'll definitely read the purple boxes first, and then your eyes would go down the gray boxes because they have less contrast, right? So these are all one landing pages, longer versions of them. So I'm going to skip all of this and go back to go to the bottom. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Um, and lastly, this design that I did, once again, after I learned about the power of alignment and visual hierarchy, um, I created this layout for my company, and it was very well received. I created this in 4 days while I was working on other projects as well. I mean, I was managing other projects, so I had to jump in and do this myself. But uh, by the way, before I play it, uh, let me know if you can hear the sound of it. Can you hear it?
No, we can't. We cannot hear the sound though.
Oh, okay. That's fine. All right. No worries. So we were supposed to create a studio page, an Affinity studio page, where we were supposed to talk about the brand and the logo and all of its thought process behind it, behind our decisions. So this was the part where we talk about the photography. And if I skip, um, we are comparing our visuals or our photography with the rest of the AI industry, which is very old like. Then we have this video area. This is the player that I designed with all of the jumps. So once again, everything is based on visual hierarchy, and things that are placed at the center, they have a lot of white space surrounding them, just to make it super clear. And then we wanted to show what typeface we use. And these were the awards that we actually won. So once again, over here, there is visual hierarchy as well. Like the US, the logo, it's because of its color, it's popping out and grabbing your attention, and then it leads to all of the reading all of the content and this date if you're interested. And then we have this. So yeah. Um, Okay. So yeah, that's all. That's all. Finally, if we don't have any question, I can cover that last question that we had, where we were talking about text-heavy content. So whenever you whenever you come across these kind of things, which you will definitely will, what you do is, once again, you understand the content and then break it down into several slides, right? Um, let me join. So how about I show you that example that I was telling you about. Just a second. Give me a second. I can show you the that presentation very quickly. Sorry, I was not prepared for this question. So
No worries, no worries.
yeah, yeah, I've got it. Thank you for waiting. Let me share my screen again, and I hope to cover this very quickly. So there was one of our clients that came to us, and they wanted us to create this presentation, recreate this, redesign this presentation. And as you can see that um, there is quite a lot of content over here. Um, by the way, if I would have, I would have shown you an example where there's even more content, but unfortunately, I don't have it on top of my file list. But this is the best I can get right now. Anyway, so what we did was what we received was quite different. Yeah. And then what I did was I would have gone screen by screen if that was possible, but because of the time, I can show you the final output that I did. So what I did was I understood the whole um, scenario. I took some time to understand blockchain because at that time I didn't know what blockchain is and what they are talking about. So this whole presentation was for people who don't understand anything about blockchain, and they want the client wanted to brief their their audience about the basics of blockchain. So I went ahead and before designing anything, I understood blockchain and all of the topics that they were talking about. And when I came back, I had a basic understanding of what it is, and I had the liberty to, I felt empowered to understand what they were saying, and I broke everything down into logical chunks. So what you're seeing over here was, this was not a single slide, but I took that content, I rephrased that content, shortened it, and created these three focal points and these headings as well. There were no headings. I created these headings by just reading this content. So this is all about improvisation, right? So if you're a designer, you're not supposed to just take that same content and just design it as is. You need to think about it. You need to really think about solving a problem or conveying a message like you would understand. So I took away some stats out of the same. Like I said, this was just one present slide that had a lot of content. So I took the stats and made them visual so that it's super clear for them, right? Once again, all of this is visual hierarchy, contrast, and all of those concepts. And the second thing what I did was I created these separate sections so that it's easier for them to distinguish between the technical topics that they were trying to say. I recreated all of these infographics. I simplified them. I simplified their icons. Um, and then I took away all of the details from them. I just try to show the model of all of them, and then in the second screen, I took only the part that was helpful for understanding the basic concept of public networks, with of course the huge focal point added on the right hand side, right? So I don't expect anyone, because I also skim content. I don't read every single word. So you need to have empathy while designing. So same goes for this, and then the section breaker, and then this uh, this paragraph was talking about the smart contracts, and this concept was given by Nick Szabo. So there was no image, but I found this image on the internet and added it just to add some um, attention or interest into it. And I started adding these visual elements over here, and I took these visual elements from all of the um, logos that these blockchains have, right? So this is how I was creating all of the visual language and adding it to this. Then this was another part. Then tokenization, I simplified the whole infographic. And once again, it needed to have the same theme, so I made sure to do that. Once again, I took away a lot of content away, and I recreated this graph in Illustrator, and this one as well. So originally, this graph and this graphic were both on the same page, and I separated them because even if the client doesn't understand, it's important to make some assumptions yourself once you have a discovery call. Because after the discovery call with the client, you understand who is it for and all of that. But there is a catch to this. You don't always improvise um, in everything. If you want to improvise, you first have to create uh, a safer option that has all the content just the way that your client has put in your slide, and then you need to give them two or three more options covering these directions that you think would work better. In that otherwise, if you won't do this, it might not work very well. Some people, in my experience, some people really got upset about this, and they were not happy that they wanted everything on a single page. So what I started doing was I I first create the safer option, and then I create these options where I go beyond their expectation, or I think out of the box. So yeah, this was the detailed answer that I could give. So I hope that answers the question. So yeah, that's it from my side. I hope that it wasn't too overwhelming for anyone. I think I've taken a little bit of more time. Thank you for being patient. So that's
Yeah,
about it.
that's okay.
Any more questions, then I'm happy to answer.
I think, right, just Shelly mentioned that that's on point. I would also agree with it. So you covered not just the question, but a lot, many aspects around it. I think that you, as a designer, it's not just a duty to, take the content and push it as is. It's also important to be informed by educating yourself about it, right? That if there's a way I can shorten it out, right? Because it's not just a copy paste job that, oh, I'll only design the layouts. I'm not gonna do anything else. I'm just gonna copy paste the content, right? So I think that's a very, very powerful statement for all the basically the visual designers out there. Uh, so I think that was a very informative workshop, Raza. I personally enjoyed it, and thank you so much for taking your precious time out on a Saturday evening in India over here and giving us such an hands-on on such crucial topics which people don't talk about. The nitty-gritty of each and everything. So this is really, really helpful for us as well. Thank you
Really,
so much.
thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone who have joined. I really enjoyed
Thank
this as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. And it was a great workshop. Have a great weekend ahead.
Same to you.
Thank you,
Bye, everyone.
everyone.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye.